I've been using the 360R for a little bit on my test bench, and now I'm finally getting a chance to use the 240R. So the question is, has it hit or sunk? Good afternoon, welcome back to Turbo Tortoise Tech. My name is Wookie Triple XL. Well, it's not actually on my ID it says Reese Crossley, but like the Matrix, I've self-rebranded to such. And in today's review, I'm having a look at something I've actually been using for a little bit now. It's the Mag 360R CoreLiquid series, which has come out from MSI. They've created their own water cooling kit, and honestly, they actually have. It's not like it's an Evetech rebrand that they're doing over here. They've done something quite unique and different. But for me, it's similar to most water cooling kits. You get 3 nice RGB fans, comes with the appropriate bolts and that sort of stuff. Everything's quite nicely finished, quite good quality, nice rubberizing on the fans themselves. Great LED as well. I'm not the biggest fan of fanlit stuff. I prefer ringlet because it doesn't flicker, but then to answer that, they've made these matte, so there won't be any annoying flickering next to you while you are busy gaming. And then as far as being unique goes, what they've done is they've moved the pump out of the head and actually into the radiator system itself. Now this system is actually in the middle of an IDA64 stress test. I'm seeing 71, 72 degrees, which is a far sight better than 97, which I got with my normal Hyper 212, which I do have over here for reference. I've got the Hyper 212 Black Edition, which I use as my base point reference cooler. It's not the newest design ever, it doesn't have the most surface area, but at the price and the performance, it's very, very good, especially for 6-core and 8-core processors. But underneath this beast over here is a 10900K, which is a 10-core wattage guzzler, to say the least. and a rendering workload to be at 71, 72 degrees with basically no audible fan curve. I mean, even if I walk over here and I use my microphone, as it were, right next to it, you'll hear it's a breeze. It's actually quite a breeze that's coming out of there at the moment. It's not too loud. So the fan kit, I must say, does a really good job, and we did a little bit of a flow test over the weekend on them, and very, very, very good, noticeably good air movement out the back of the radiator. I thought having the pump in the middle there might interfere with it a little bit, but it didn't at all. But that's the 360. I do also have the 240, which I'm going to do a live unboxing of it for you to show how it comes packaged and show you the pump that I'm talking about. Once I'm done fighting the packaging, that is, I'll pull my blade out like the East Rander that I am and give it a good cut. There we go, much easier when you're not fighting that. I'll clean it up later, Mom, okay? It's just there for now. I'll throw it away. But getting to the important part of this package, I have to say these come really nicely boxed. MSI's done quite a lot visually for their products as of late. And the opening up of this is great because nice big flappy opening job. So installation guide, if you do need it. I did initially because figuring it out was a little bit weird. Fans come packaged as such. They do have little funny blades on the edges of them, which I thought was going to increase the noise overall of them, but it doesn't. Usually the more edge you have on a blade, the worse it gets. But as I said, it's that lovely matte finish. So there's going to be no flickering from the LEDs. And then it's a 2-cable system as per normal, where you've got your addressable header and then your 4-pin out of the fan itself. And then they do come with 2-in-1s, and then these actually can daisy chain into each other, which is I think quite a nice touch. There's a lot of cables as well. I think the market in general is going to move away from these, but nothing out of the norm for the time being. And these are dual ball bearing fans as well, so they should have some pretty good lifetime. The next thing that comes out of the box is the connecting goodies. For the 240mm, you've got AM4 support. You do have 2011 and 2012 or 2011 V3, sorry, I forgot how Intel was doing their thing, but LJ1366 is also covered. So this will be able to do almost all of the Intels on desktop. The 240 isn't TR4 compatible, so it's not going to be able to do Threadripper stuff, but the 360 is, and it does come with the appropriate brackets and connectors. I've opted to not use the included thermal paste because I always test with the same stuff. I use Master Gel series from Cooler Master because I want everything to have the same sort of thermal efficiency when it comes to thermal paste testing, so we can see what the cooler's performance is like and not just what the included package performance may or may not be. I don't think you need that on a day-to-day basis. You're probably going to drop 3 degrees buying 100 Rand or 120 Rand Cooler Master thermal paste and not spending 500 bucks. But Cooler Master is very generous and kind enough to give me samples. So for testing, I always test open air test bench and then with the Master Liquid Gel. Now, one thing that's actually quite important to note today is that it's actually quite warm. It's about 22 degrees. I'm actually in shorts and slops at the moment. That's how warm it is here in the studio. So normally when I test, it can be a little bit cooler. And this thing is peaking at about 73 degrees on a 10900K in IDA 64. And how long have we been going now? 11 minutes, 40 seconds. So 360 more radiator cooling. Doing a damn good job, and I'm going to be using it to overclock this platform, which is the 3080 plus the 10900K. So I'm going to do a little video on overclocking. I've already done all the stock bench testing, and in gaming you're looking at mid 50s with this sort of cooler, so that's quite chilled. It's chilled enough to do some overclocking. But finishing up with the package on hand at the 240mm, I want to show you on this radiator what they've done, or on this pump setup, because this one is unthermal pasted and well, not connected, so I can do this quite easily. If you look on in the mid here, there is the pump itself. It actually sits in the middle of the radiator. Now, something that's quite cool about this is if you were to top mount, then your low point for your air is going to be sitting on top there. Because of how it's pumping in and out, like on the bottom section here, your air would sit on top. Because Gamers Nexus did quite a good job on it recently, where he showed that if your pump is at the low point in your system, that air builds up in the top here, and then you actually hear it going through and cycling through, and that's a bad thing because it's going to damage your pump. I haven't heard these pumps at all. Even in this orientation with it standing upright, there's absolutely no problem. And I think that's just due to how it's been made and the pump location, but a lot of people want to do their system builds with their pump sitting in the top, sort of facing down like that, and this actually gives you the capacity to do that. Really nice copper bottoms on these guys as well. And then the pump head itself, you can actually rotate the dragon emblem. So if you want it in a certain rotation, right, let me just get a hold of this. If you want this in any sort of rotation you could imagine, you'll be able to just turn it at your leisure so that it then lines up in the way you want to. You're just going to be careful of your connector over the side here, but you can rather actually rotate the pump face itself, or in this case just the block face itself, and then have your pump in the correct orientation for your cabling. But now, without further ado, I'm going to take off the 360 and set up the 240, and we'll put it through its own IDA. But based on this, I can see the peak here is 74 degrees. This has now been going for 14 minutes. So let me save it from itself quickly. CPU minimum was 34, so just a little bit above room temperature. Maximum was 74 and average was 70.2. That's on a 10900K. Like I said, normally we test with the 9600KF, where the average just on the Hyper 212 itself is already 76 degrees. So this is 4 more cores and quite a lot more clock. Sorry, I was just waiting for the locals to stop being rude and interrupting me. But back to the task at hand. 9600KF I had at 4.8 gigahertz. Now, I did have this exact 10900K under the Hyper 212 and it hit an impressive 97 degrees in the exact same test. So, and that was average, by the way. It did go as high as 100 degrees C, which is enough to boil water if you're keeping track. So that was less than ideal, obviously, and not going to give me any overclocking headroom. But with an average of 70 under all core, now we should have some overclocking headroom, and right back down to 29 degrees as soon as you finish. And the base fan profile, I mean, if you can even hear anything with me right up in it, I'd be impressed, to be honest. We'll have to see on playback, won't we? I haven't cheated this time. But anyway, let me stop faffing and talking rubbish, and I'm gonna set up the 240 and give it the exact same test, and then we'll see what the temps look like. Okay, so we've got a 240mm now set up. It is much cuter and smaller, isn't it? Just look at it, it's all little over here. It didn't quite work out as well with the cabling as the last one, just because of the height and stuff. But the length of these cables is pretty good, I have to say, that all the connecting pipes at least to the cooler. It's exactly the same setup as far as the RGB and daisy chaining goes, so everything can daisy chain into one slot, which is 10 out of 10. The fan setup is also identical. It's got a 2-into-1 splitter, but this one doesn't have the resistor pack that came with the 360, which is quite interesting. It is very quiet as the same in the same breath. I mean, barely even has a breath. It doesn't really make any noise at all. But now we need to do a temperature test. So I'm going to give it the exact same run. We're going to go for 10+ minutes of RT64 so that it completely heat soaks the system, and then we'll have to see. It is running at 27 right now, so I think on idle it's pretty much identical to the 360, so there's no issues with thermal paste. And once again, like I said, I am using Master Gel, which I put on all of the CPUs. So without further ado, I think it's time to try and break a PC.
A few moments later.
Okay, so we're back. Coming up to 13 minutes on the test, and the average at the moment is 73.7. It is getting a little bit warmer as time goes on. Peaks are obviously a little bit higher as you would expect, but I thought this would go closer to 80. It is, however, producing quite a lot of fan curve to keep that temperature. If I get quite close, you'll notice that, yeah, I can hear it from here even. There's a bit of a whirring that's going on, whereas compared to the 360, it was more of a light hum. So I think if you maxed out with the fan curve was quite as high as it is here, it might be a little bit better. But this is not so far off that it makes it then completely irrelevant. I do think this 360 will run cooler and quieter just because naturally it has a bigger radiator, more surface area means better cooling generally. And the way water cooling works, if you aren't aware, is the loop itself has a temperature that it will reach, and the entire loop will then effectively almost be at that temperature. There are obviously colder spots inside the radiator. Generally the bottom section is the coldest point, and then where the hot air comes in, where I can actually feel it on the hot end here, is warmer, and it is quite warm. Noticeably warmer than it is at the bottom. So it's definitely doing its job as it's supposed to do it. I'm going to stop it here just past the 14-minute mark, and then I will take a nice print screen here for you guys. So, bullet point of the presentation time. What do I like, what don't I like? There's actually very little I don't like on this. I think everything is quite nicely finished. Maybe the pump head could be a little bit thicker plastic or something like that. Just being nitpicky on that didn't have the best feeling I've ever felt in my life. Just grabbing the 360 more, I really do like the way the pump heads have been done with the full copper base plates. Those are absolutely fantastic. I really do like the pump being in this occasion. So as I said, if you were to top mount it and have it like that, then you would be absolutely over away without having to worry about the pump then circulating water and making weird noises. And even in the standing orientation, I haven't heard the pump literally even once. I really like that they are sort of kind of helping you with the cable mess by putting everything in a daisy chain sort of format, and then having one splitter then run all of your fans off of one header, so you don't have to have it plugged into like every other area in your motherboard, and then everything can be controlled off the CPU. Fan temperature sensor. If you were to put in a custom fan curve, it would probably help to keep it cool. It is nice and thick as well. These are quite thick boy radiators, so they're not little piddly wimpy jobs. And then the airflow from these fans and the noise profile is really good. When they're just on like their lowest profile like this, you basically can't hear them at all. Now these are not the cheapest setups you'll ever get, but I will say because of the pump location, they should actually be one of the most reliable. Fans will come and go, your bearings will seize over time, they'll get dust in them, etc. And then they will actually start to wobble and seize. But your pump, if your pump is lasting, then that will keep that water cooling kit alive. And fans are quite a lot cheaper to replace than 2,000 rands worth of pump and radiator. So all in all then, I think that's quite good, and I think as a first attempt sort of from MSI, they've done something unique which I really like. It's not just rebranding an OEM type of cooler setup. Who knows who OEMs these? I'll probably find out. Maybe I'll eat my words down the line at some point, but I like where MSI has come as a brand. They've stopped being quite so reactive and have become proactive, and that's, I think, a really good addition to any community or any sort of product breadth, is if your company is deriving it themselves and not just rebranding another thing and charging a markup on it because it's got their name on it. Then that's quite cool, that the fact that it is actually a unique product. But for my next trick, I'm going to be putting the 360 back on and doing some 10900K 3080 overclocking what should be technically, okay, it's not the 3090, that didn't overclock much anyway, but that is in reasonable terms the most powerful gaming PC you can buy today. So until then, I hope you guys stay safe, keep well. If you have enjoyed this review, do hit us up with a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.